All right, guys. Hello, everybody. And this is the Monday night, a guy, a girl, a guy, and a movie. And this is episode 11. So we are going to be discussing the wonderful 1968 film classic, Where Eagles Dare. And this is a movie that was fairly well received at the time of its release. Now, the late 60s was going through a real resurgence of amazing war films coming out. John Wayne was a standard at the cinema. Clint Eastwood made three films in '68, and he made his way to the A list in an amazing fashion. And then things happened, and we were fighting World War I and World War II at the box office, and we saw that this was really great. And then the '70s, something happened, and it was before Star Wars, but we had a huge amount of dystopian sci-fi films come out right between like 74, 72 into 77, where things didn't look so great and grand. We still had some dystopian sci-fi, but this movie came out at peak Hollywood hero worship for the veterans, and you can tell there's a lot of love, but this was not an American war film. You can tell because they have their priorities a little different with this movie. And the only negative I'm going to talk about with this is the sound of the pistols. But that's my only complaint. Janet,
Yes.
when you watched Eagles Dare,
hmm
what were your thoughts?
well, you could definitely tell it was made in the '60s,
Yeah.
late '60s, because of the soundtrack alone, just the type of music they chose. Very uh, what was the word for it? Soap opera like.
Yes.
uh, that's the first thing that popped in my head was like it's like the background music, very loud though, from a soap opera or something. That didn't really like the soundtrack that much. But after about, I guess, 20 minutes, when I was really getting into the movie, it seemed to go fade into the background a little bit. So I didn't miss it as much because I was getting more into the story. So that wasn't too bad. But I could definitely tell it's definitely a dated, the way it's filmed. It was definitely a dated movie. But besides that, the acting and everything else I thought was really, really good. I was really impressed.
Say again. Say
I was
again.
really impressed
Oh,
with
okay.
the story and the acting. So besides the few little things that I didn't like, everything else made it to me for this type of movie. The seriousness of a movie like this. I'm sorry out or whatever, but I'm trying to stay in one spot.
Yeah, it's really weird because like your microphone, sometimes my microphone does it, but if we position ourselves differently, it sounds different. I don't know. Um, I have to say that when I sat down to watch this film, I was not expecting what I got, and what I discovered was this is a movie where when I sit down and watch this, the first half hour I cannot have my phone near me because for some odd reason I'm recognizing what's going on screen just passively, and I'm not actively watching it. And this is not a movie you do that with.
No,
So
definitely.
you have to pay attention to it.
hmm
And it all pretty much starts off. You have Carnaby, and he's a planner for the Western Front. He's captured by the Germans and taken to Schloss Adela. And it's a mountaintop fortress, and the only way you can get there is by cable car or, strangely enough, helicopter, which I don't believe that was accurate historically, but we'll get into that later. Uh, they send a team of 7 Allied spec operations in there, and the individual in charge of them is Major John Smith of Grenadier Guards and U.S. Army Ranger Lieutenant Morris Schaefer. And even the drop, even the parachuting into position, uh, the scope of this movie is so different than what I'm used to with modern films. And
Yeah,
they
they had a
go ahead.
lot of people in it. I mean, the flying of the plane, the inside of the plane, the realism behind the plane, the people getting ready to leap out of the plane with their parachutes, all that to me was very realistic to me. There was a couple scenes throughout the movie where you could definitely tell they went from real life to green screen or
Yeah,
painting.
they do some front projection in this movie that you didn't really see much of that before this movie, and this movie pioneered a lot of it. The cable car scene is a good example. There's a couple other scenes where certain people are parachuting into place, but the amazing thing I thought was just how much of the location shots they got,
Yeah, it was beautiful, I thought.
and they filmed this in Austria and Bavaria,
Hmm.
and I was not expecting this to be on location so much, but they did a on location shooting, and where this is supposed to be happening at now, they do have a real castle, but the castle they were shooting in is kind of a different castle than what they presented. But that castle that they shot in, the only thing you could really recognize nowadays would be the courtyard. From what they're saying, the courtyard's still the same.
It looked, when they showed the overhead shot when they were looking across, when the women were about to go across to the, or not the women, when the two men were about to go to the thing to get on the little thing to go up the hill to the castle. Uh, it looks so familiar to me, and I can't, I just couldn't put my finger on what other movies or whatever I've seen that exact castle in with those cable cars
Mm-hmm.
went up there. But I have seen it before, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But it looked very familiar to me. But the whole aspect of how they set up everything to look authentic, like it was in Germany or outside of Germany or Switzerland, and that, that whole area, was it in the Swiss Alps basically?
I think so.
Okay, well, the costumes, the detailed the costumes, even in the bar clothing. You know what I mean? What's so funny?
Uh, the cheap Thunder Sex boxer back.
Oh, I have to pay attention to it, but they just love us. They just love your streams.
They do.
Why your record numbers are going up is because there's lots of hot sex page. Tinder loves you.
Apparently, it does.
It's really funny. And it's like it's always in so many minutes after we start when it starts
Yep.
happening. Like it's on a timer or something.
All right.
You have to kick everybody out again.
No, I don't. I just changed to Shadzar is somewhere. I don't know where he went, but he's not here available at the moment. Otherwise, he'd probably be doing the blocking. But
Yeah. But I'm sorry. I thought you were laughing at what I was saying. I wasn't.
no, honey, no. I was laughing at this silly stream, which suddenly is advertising everything, every desire you want. Come on, Janet, bite the bullet. Give them
XYZ.
your credit card number.
XYZ. We have more cheap sex than Tinder. But the thing is because you have to get it on the internet. Who wants it on the internet? I would like live if I'm going to get it and pay for it. Live. Best. Yeah, I thought the costumes and the whole setup that they had at the little pub, the way how packed it was, like a real life pub would be way up there because there's only like maybe one shop. You know what I mean? So they
Mm-hmm.
very real.
The drindle that Mrs. Ingrid Pitt is wearing. She's the wait staff that gets brought into this entire fracas.
Mm-hmm.
She looked smoking beautiful. Like, I don't know what she did before this movie. After this movie, she did a bunch of Hammer films, the seductive vampire thing. I don't know if you saw this or not. I'll have to share, but this is something that
You talking about Ingrid Pitt?
Ingrid Pitt as
Yeah.
Heidi. Oh my. Oh,
Very pretty.
My. Yeah.
I thought she was prettier than the little blonde that they had in it.
Yeah, Mary Ure is gorgeous, but this lady blows her out of the water. And Hammer Films said, Mrs. Pitt, we'd like to bring you in. I mean, she did a bunch of Hammer films. Countess Dracula, I'm going to watch on my own time because I don't want you guys to hear that. But she plays a character in Countess Dracula, and then later she just grew to love the roles that she got, and she became one of these people that would go to conventions and people were just like falling over themselves to talk to her, even when she's like 50 and 60 years old. And she's like, I can't believe these people are still wanting to talk to me. I was just a lark doing this. And then she makes a quote on IMDb, I probably have some of the best breasts in Hollywood. But I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah, she took memorable roles, roles that she was in. She was memorable. She did it was a tragic person or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I bet she was a little sad that she didn't get to make out with him.
From what I'm understanding, they on set, Richard was not really the friendliest person because he was going through a lot of aches and pains. The scene where he climbs up the side of the castle with ease,
Mm-hmm.
He's on like cables and pulleys. He's got bursitis and starting to suffer all these years of alcoholism and hanging out with Peter O'Toole and other notable drunks of Hollywood, which Oliver Reed is part of that. And I love Oliver Reed. But Richard Burton just he flies right up the side of that castle. And then you see Clint Eastwood, he's actually climbing up the side of the castle. And the entire time, Richard and Mrs. Richard and Mrs. Mary are there in the scene. And Clint's still outside climbing up. He's actually exhausted from his little endeavor. He's like, hey, can you help me?
Yeah, funny is Burton was climbing up. That's the one thing I've noticed that stood out to me because I do know a little bit about, climbing up a rope, that he was doing the whole thing with his arms. And he's not that strong looking of a man to do it all. You could tell he wasn't using his legs whatsoever, which you're supposed to wrap the rope around your ankle, as you
go up, as you ascend.
Yeah, as you climb up or down. And he wasn't doing any of that. So I thought that was kind of, but, the movie was in the 60s, so I didn't, put too much pressure on it for that. And he was older, even though he was still a very attractive man. And the scene where they were fighting on the cable car, where some of the far away scenes, that you
can tell it's not him.
Yeah, you can tell it was outside, and then the close-up shots were definitely done inside the studio. So
yes.
You see the difference of that, but it was still good. I was still, like clenching my fist, hoping that he wasn't going to fall.
Yeah.
That or lose a hand or something. get shot, or I didn't know what was going to happen for sure, but it was exciting. So it was dramatic for sure. But the twists and turns at the castle was like, wow. I was really surprised
Yes.
about what happened between all the different characters, because I was thrown for a loop, and I'm usually really good at figuring
At
something.
spotting,
And I was,
you can spot a twist a mile away.
yeah, I can, but this time for whatever reason, it just caught me off guard. I thought something bigger or bad was going to happen with the SS officer. The
Yes.
that one guy, the blonde that liked the blonde. I thought
Yeah.
something sleazy was going to happen with him, more than because it seemed like the camera lingered on him for longer periods of time with nothing being said. So to me that meant that he's important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
He
but
was being set up for it.
so I don't know. I thought that was interesting. So and he got no credit for this movie.
Not really.
Derek Newark. I printed out the thing and it says uncredited. So he did not get credit in this movie.
Huh.
There was people that didn't get credit for their part, even though they got their name. Their name was on the paperwork, and they were a lot of FaceTime in the movie, but they didn't get credited for it, which is weird. I don't understand why that does. That kind of stuff.
Hey, Man of War 665, Neighbor of the Beast, and Shadow and Sun. Yeah, this was definitely a take you by surprise movie, and it doesn't really stop. It kept going, and I read that they wrote the script for this first, and then after the script is written, Alistair, the scriptwriter, turned it into a novel.
Mm-hmm.
But where the script used Clint Eastwood in his penchant for violence, and he's really violent in this movie. There's
Mm-hmm.
more people killed in this movie by Clint Eastwood than any other film.
Oh yeah, he kills a lot of people because he's blowing people up with bombs.
Yeah, he's got the bombs. He's got the two MP40s he's using later on, which is probably the most masculine scene in the entire film.
Yeah, even the girl got to whip out the machine gun and shoot people in the back of the bus.
She's having a blast doing that, it looked like, too.
Like she was
Did you notice that?
Yeah, I thought so. But but it looked good. It made you feel. See, that's what tells me this was in 68, and they are talking about how women don't have any roles. There's no decent roles for women. It's like there's tons of movies with prominent women being badasses in them. She was a badass.
Yeah.
Both secret agents. Risking their life every day when they went to work to get the information they needed to pull off this endeavor. And, I don't know. I just don't understand it. To me, there's so many good movies with women leads or women side by side with men in the movie that have an important part to make the story successful. And you just constantly hear about from the dum-dums, I guess, out there that try to tell people that women aren't represented in movies or whatever. I don't know. This doesn't make any sense to me because this is a movie proves that there are only two women in the whole movie, but they're very, very important to the story.
They're super prominent.
So I don't know. I just think it's funny when you hear all these people talking about women aren't in movies and they have to put women in roles that should be men's, or that were men's roles, and they had to give them to a woman because they want more women representation or something. I don't understand. Just give the women better parts. That's all you got to do. You don't have to give them man's parts. Just better role, right? Screen time better. That's all you got to do. But yeah, I thought it was really good leading up to that whole thing. The meeting at the very beginning where they were discussing about the actual endeavor they're about to go on, I thought that was pretty good. Very believable of what I would believe would be going on in a meeting room where they're discussing sending people off to do something that's very covert and only a few people can even know about it. And I kind of felt bad for the guy with the big nose that got all upset at the very beginning when he said, "Why are we having to do all this and risk our lives for this one guy? Why is he so important?" You know, that part, that guy, and he's the one that ends up being dead at the very beginning. So he had a very short part, but I thought he had a nice little dramatic opening, and then he gets knocked in the back of the head. And then there for a little bit, I even thought that um, Burton was the bad guy for a little while there.
He
Did you?
never really seems to come clean.
Yeah, he's like secretive about a lot of things.
He, I read later that he didn't like this movie so much, and he was in a lot of war films, or he was in that period of time. He was involved with more pro-war mindset stuff, and he really did not like it. You know, he's trying to get things good with Elizabeth Taylor in his life, and it just didn't seem to work out well as much as he wanted to. And let me zoom back here. He's in he had a part in Steven Vor, which is he was just a narrator for that. There's Dr. Faustus. Year beforehand, he's in the movie The Comedians. He was in The Taming of the Shrew, which should have been more happiness for him, but apparently it wasn't. He was in Zulu. He was a narrator for that. They used him for a lot of masculine roles, and he really just was not enthralled about it. He loved the paychecks. He hated he.
He loved the part when he played, wasn't it Caesar? And he went on about that character, how much he loved playing that role. I thought a video or a news article or something when he was talking about getting to play this part, and such a depth of the character or something. I just remember hearing about it. And he also thought he liked playing the role of in the Island of Dr. Monroe.
Yes.
That role too. So it's interesting to try to figure all this out because there's so much backstory on all these characters, and people don't realize that too, that it could be an excellent script and a good director and everything, but the character is boggled.
Okay, there you are.
If the character's boggled down with lots of crap going on in their life, behind the scenes, then it can come across on the screen and take away from the character he's trying to portray in the movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And you can see that with some of the choices he made later, because things just never quite worked out as well as they wanted to with Mrs. Elizabeth Taylor. And at the time, she was damn near Hollywood royalty.
Yeah.
Kind of feel sorry for him about that. Like that in there. I think y'all guys have. They parachute in, they enter the castle, and they get Carnaby before the Germans can get to the interrogation phase of his holding period. But Smith meets up with Mary Ellison, and nobody knows that they're kind of a thing.
Yeah. That's one of the things that brings me to one of the lines that I thought was so good in the movie. I wrote it down on the back of my notes. I wrote down the two of my favorite lines, and the first one was "Take off your clothes." Very demanding when he said it in the one scene. And she's like, "What? Like we're supposed to be getting some things done." And he's like, "No, I mean, take them off because you have to, get dressed so you can be that house helper or whatever." So it wasn't for sex; it was for get her ready for her trip to the castle. He'd already had a romp with her at the other place they were at. So I thought that was a really good line. It stuck in my
head. When I heard that the first time, I rewound it like 2 or 3 times. And Mary was instantly promoted in my head as like, wow, I should probably look for her stuff because she sounds like she's a fun actress to listen to. And boy, I should have waited another 10 minutes because then they go to the Gasthaus, the little German restaurant,
Yeah.
and that scene with Burton having little Ingrid Pitt sit on his lap, kind of flirtatiously,
Yeah.
and you find out that that's the woman that he's supposed to meet up with, and he's going to pair her up with Mary so they can get together and they can have her put into the castle so they can get admittance into the castle, take care of Carnaby. It's there's a lot of moving parts with this movie, guys. Do not be distracted by your phones. Watch this movie in a sterile environment with it damn near on full blast. You'll enjoy that. You won't enjoy the gunshot sounds. Whoever did the audio mixing needs to be hit in the head.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. So
I hated that. Like, I'm looking for a silencer on all these, and like some of them have like the looks like it might be a silencer attachment, but probably not.
but the where when they were shooting at glass and you hear the glass breaking and
Yes.
you could definitely tell that it was hitting metal or if it was hitting the brick wall or if it was hitting glass. So whoever did those sound effects for those things, it definitely sounded realistic. But um, I thought it was kind of funny in a couple of the scenes where they're you really get into it because they're trying to get out of there alive, and every time they kill a few people with their guns, there's 10 more behind those ones coming up, so you're worried they're going to run out of bullets and stuff. But it was just funny to me how easily they were able to pick off all of those German soldiers, but nobody could hit nobody on the
Yeah,
other.
the Germans literally went to stormtrooper school.
Yes, definitely.
They 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 don't look like they're competent with their weapons in this film, and that's I don't know if that was something that they set out with in the initial portion of it, but they never look like they look like they're comfortable hoisting weapons, but they never hit their targets. I was kind of disappointed.
Yeah, to me, the only one to me from the movie that stood out that came across as a real badass was the one SS guy.
Yeah,
Even though he was younger than the youngest one basically in the whole movie. Clint Eastwood looked young, but I think that guy looked younger. That actor, what was his name again? Um, Derek Newark, the
okay.
officer. Um, he seemed like he just did a really good job at making me think that yeah, he could be a guy that worked directly with Hitler. You know what I mean? He had that air about him, an arrogance about him. I really liked his character. I thought he was very realistic and scary. Like when he was with uh, Mary, the
Yes.
blonde. When he was with her, she seemed, and she did good too, though. She was a good actress. She seemed intimidated by him, like when he came back and he was like interested in her because she was really, really pretty, and you didn't know whether was he really interested in her or was he thinking something was up, suspicious with her. So I had that air about the whole time when they're together. I couldn't relax. I was very nervous for her because I thought at any moment he's going to put the handcuffs on her or something, and who knows what would happen to her then. So I always had that in the background because I was worried that he was playing her like a harp or something. So, but he was a very believable character to me, I thought.
Yeah, I gotta say that this movie really knocks it out of the park for me on a lot of different levels. And once they're inside and they're on their escape route, like two of the guys just mysteriously died. Two of the commandos just immediately die. I don't know what happened, but they're no longer part of the contingent of walking heroes.
Yeah, the guy that they found, Richard Burton found dead underneath the Jeep,
Mm-hmm.
tall guy that almost looked like Lurch's brother.
Yeah,
Okay, that's who he reminded me of. But that character at the very beginning, I was suspicious of him simply by his looks because of
Yeah,
like to me, I felt like this guy is going to be one of the bad guys, but he ended up being a good guy that died for his country, basically. So I kind of felt bad for him when they found him dead. I was like, he died. He's not the one that killed the other guy because I was racking my brain trying to figure out who killed the guy as soon as he was getting off the plane.
yeah. That felt kind of weird or sketchy.
Yeah,
And then
that when he looked the back of his neck and it was bruised, that like someone had hit him on the back of the head and killed him before he landed. And then because when he hit the snow in his white, snowsuit with his white
radio
parachute
pack, yeah, parachute and all that.
back, I was like, when he hit the ground, I go, a parachuter knows not to have your legs straight like that when you land. Okay. So to me, that was fishy right off the bat. And I didn't know if it was bad acting or if it was supposed to be look that way. And then when they found out he was dead, he didn't join the rest of the group. I was like, oh, okay. He was already dead. That's why he landed that way. It was so awkward. But the
So
whole thing about the woman coming out of the back of the plane after all the men had leaped out, then I was suspicious about whether who in that group that already jumped out knew that there was this hidden woman in there and what was her part in this. Because the guy that was on the plane helping the pilot, they actually knew that the woman was in the plane.
yeah,
Because,
they didn't seem to act any different with her.
yeah, even a pilot never lets people on this plane that he doesn't know is on there. You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
job. That's the plane. That's their one thing they have to take care of. And I thought the pilot, the guy that they got to play the pilot, did a really good job pretending.
Your father, when he was in the service, he was involved with the Air Corps, wasn't he, or with
Uh-huh.
the Air Force?
Bible instructor, and
Okay.
did the flight training where they jumped out of planes and had to pack the packs. Uh, and I remember him telling me that I think it was during Vietnam that him and some other guys were sent in a helicopter to pick up a couple of a pilot and I think his co-pilot that were shot down, and they landed to get them, and one of them was injured and he couldn't walk, and they had to get out with the little gurneys and put him on it and run back. And I remember Dad saying that the doors were open on the side, and we had the radio guy behind him. He was trying to show me, to his right, and then that he jumped up and he was leaning over, pulling the other guy in with the gurney to lock it in place. They said there was these little straps or whatever to strap down the whole gurney and the person on to the bottom helicopter. And that's when he heard this sound kind of like go over his head. And then when he turned and looked over his shoulder, the radio guy had been shot right in the middle of his back. And if my dad had been sitting up, he would have been the one that got shot right in the chest. So he says he feels guilty. He's felt guilty about it ever since. So a lot of people, I think they get that PTSD or whatever nightmares and different things that happen simply because they have, they feel guilty that they lived, but nothing happened to them, So, I would listen to my dad a lot and talk about different things. But I was lucky because my dad was willing to talk about it when he felt somebody that was listening to him really cared to listen and was interested in listening to what he had to say. And I think that's what's sad about a lot of the vets. I thought about this a lot when I was watching this movie because I think a lot of these vets don't have anyone that cares, or they feel that nobody cares because nobody actually listens to them or asks them questions. So, you know, and that's sad because I don't think it's just from the older wars. I think any person that's ever from any country that has to go and fight and see other people blown to bits or shot or wounded, or the psychological damage of what happens to you when you're a POW and all those things, I think it affects the people. And it's just sad to think that these people come home and they have no one to share their feelings with or to just listen to them. Even though the person can't do anything to fix the problem, just having someone there to listen to what you have to say, I think makes a huge difference in a person's life. I mean, I love to talk. I could talk someone's head off and put everyone to bed every night just from gab crap. But a lot of people, don't want to talk because they honestly feel like no one wants to listen to them. But I do like to listen to stories. I like to talk and interact, and I do ask. Sometimes I go overboard on asking too many questions because I really do want to understand what the person to get me to understand. But I'm just lucky. I just feel very, very lucky to be where I am in my life, and I just wish that other people could, have those same things. But this movie definitely made me think about all the people and what they went through psychologically uh, during these type of confrontations. Because when you're looking at this movie, it's three different countries. You got Germany, well, four, I guess, because you got the people that are from Switzerland, the people that are supposed to be neutral, that are living in this little town down there at the bottom of the mountain where the castle is at, and how their lives are being controlled by the Germans. They're not allowed to come and go as they please. Everybody has to show their papers and whatever else. And then you have the German people, and then you have the soldiers, and then you have the American that's involved in this whole rescue operation, and then you have the British guys, the team of British. It's like a Navy SEAL team or something that they're putting together to go in and save this general that was supposedly was shot down in his plane, and they're about to interview him. So
Wherever you're at right now in relation to your microphone, that is the peak Janet that I need to hear.
Really, right where I'm at?
Right where you're at right now. That
I'm not moving.
okay. Put your chair in concrete and don't let yourself slouch. You sound perfect.
Because I'm in the country right now, so it's like in waves or something.
Okay.
So, I'm out in the country, so I got the best internet I can possibly get out here. It's not 5G, whatever phone, just sudden link internet. That's what it is. I think that's what it's.
Understandable.
But that's how I looked at it as they did very good at portraying the different people involved in this type of occupation, because basically that's what it would you call that, what they were doing in that little Switzerland town, and
okay.
being occupied, using it for their operation. So they basically don't have any freedoms because they know they can't say anything or do anything. They just have to deal with them, right?
Cool.
So can you still hear me?
Say again.
Can you hear me?
I can, and I was just thinking about how your experience with watching your dad go through his service time and going around the country, and then watching this movie in your adulthood and getting to see the type of material that your dad trained on.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if he trained on that.
On that specific, airplane or in that end.
Because that was a long time ago. But my dad did do some scuba diving stuff because he did underwater scuba diving for the TV show I Sea Hunt when he was in his 20s or something, because he had some autographs from what was his name, Lou or something Bridges, whatever that actor's name was, Lloyd Bridges.
Lloyd Bridges.
Yeah, he had some autographs on his wetsuit and a couple of his tanks, underwater tanks and stuff, from being on that TV show. So he thought that was pretty cool. My dad was impressed. But my dad did a lot of that stuff. He was very, I guess you'd call him macho, because he got to do a lot of things that a lot of men would like to do. And then he ended up with 5 daughters. Poor guy. But yeah, this movie was really good if you want authenticness. At least I think from a woman's perspective, it seemed very authentic on the procedures that they went through to set up the whole operation to go in and save the girl that's shot down or whatever in his plane, and that's how they captured him. So, and then they were doing this very secretive way of getting him in and getting people in and hoping they could get the general out before they did any kind of interview with him to get information about what their plans were in the second wave during the
And,
war.
and watching Clint Eastwood work, I I don't know what Clint Eastwood did. I haven't watched his entire filmography. Okay, hey, Polymies Minion. I've seen Clint Eastwood act in Few Dollars More and Fistful of Dollars, but when he's going around setting up the bombs, I just thought from an ordnance perspective, whatever they were doing there, whatever type of work they were doing with the sticks and setting all that, just his movements, he looked like he had done this 300 times if he had done it once. He
Yeah,
just looked so natural doing that. And I hate to sound like a callous person, but watching him gun down the Germans in that movie is so cathartic. And every time like there's something that needs to go on, Richard Burton pretty much looks at Clint Eastwood in this movie and pulls his card, says "Go," and Clint Eastwood goes. There's one part where Clint Eastwood starts getting beaten up by the Germans towards the third act, and before they leave the castle, there's a fracas that doesn't quite go that well, but it it was a very enjoyable movie to watch if you just want to see a bunch of dead Germans in World War II. Because Clint Eastwood just he just lines them up. He gets perfect shots in this movie. This is like the 15-year-old dream from like the mid 60s. You read about these heroic tales of valor in World War II, and Clint Eastwood's doing all this stuff. Like I could see where people got inspired to go join the army after watching this film, and then we go over to Vietnam, and it doesn't quite work that way. But
yeah,
I could see where this movie helped feed recruitment because the way Clint Eastwood portrays this lieutenant, he just does not give quarter. He gets his butt whipped one time, and after he does, some little bit of time passes, so his body heals up a bit. He goes from getting beat up by Germans, and 30 minutes later, after they've made their way down a cable car, dropped into a river, found a bus that they were playing with earlier in the movie.
hmm
He,
with
he
packs full of dynamite
yeah,
carried around.
yeah, he's
Wep-
go ahead.
and they had weapons too, remember, in their bags they were carrying around.
Yeah. So he's weighed down by like 30 to 50 pounds of stuff
Yeah.
throughout this movie. And he's not complaining. He's just going out there and laying down business one scene after another.
Yeah,
And
'cause
he was in really good shape.
he
I
was like weapons what was the name? He called him something expert. He was a weapons
yeah,
expert. And that's why he was brought along because of his skills of bombs and other weapons, guns, different kinds of guns, all the different things, and how to use them in a hurry. You know how to set something 1, 2, 3 and get it set and gone, and setting the detonators and whatever else with on a timer to where the whole thing when they did that was genius part when I went, wow, that was really smart when I realized what he did, because when they were being chased in the big red bus with the snowplow
yes.
and you could see him coming, you're like, what the hell, how are they going to get away from these people? That's what I'm thinking, because there's there. Then you got an actor Okay. And then you have the two soldiers, right? So they're driving along, and then all of a sudden you see him clip that pole. And I was like, what's he doing that for? And that's when I saw the tripwire for that one dynamite setup that he had set earlier when they were on their way there. Okay. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So then when he did that, and then as the other bad guys are coming up behind him, and you hear that, you hear the sound of the explosion and the fireball, and then the pole falling down. Okay. And then some of them were taken out, different vehicles and things like that. So, but I was like, darn, it's just a little bit too late because it was like the lead Jeep and the little uh, motorcycle
Motorcycle.
car, the
Yep.
sidecar.
Yes.
It's just missing them every single time. And I was like, oh, those guys they can't get rid of them. This can't get rid of them. So that was kind of a good, exciting uh, chase, and shootout that was going on for that whole thing and on curvy, icy roads. So,
Yeah, that's the part that not many people realize is up there. You're driving through Bavaria, and it's going to be winter for 5 or 6 months.
mm-hmm.
The only thing I didn't like was that they didn't show enough of the bus fishtailing.
Yeah. Yeah. But the thing is, like a couple of the actual explosions that take out the vehicles and the way they flip over and spin around and then roll down a huge mountain and you're
Yes.
seeing something happen, it's not CGI. So, man,
No.
they planes, they trashed Jeeps. I mean, they trashed so many vehicles and planes in this movie. I was really shocked because the budget had been pretty big. I didn't get to see what the budget was, but it had to be pretty high. I mean, like when he was driving that giant snowplow through the airport at the very end, trying to take out as many planes as they could, so that when they did get to fly off, that no one would be chasing them. He's just running over the planes with that ginormous snowplow, and it was like that was ingenious if it was really happening in wartime. But the fact that I was thinking, oh my god, this is a movie, and they're really trashing all this stuff. So
They beat the hell out of some equipment.
yeah, they look like they really beat the heck out of a lot of stuff. But that was exciting to me. I thought that whole thing that chased through the whole the runway area and the leading up to them being able to get on the other plane to try to get out of there. I thought all that was really exciting because you didn't know, if one of even the women were going to get killed. So I just thought it was very good leading up to all of that part of it. The way that they were just seconds ahead of the bad guys. That's what made it intense.
And you're correct. They were seconds ahead.
Yeah, that's it, seconds. And even with all the explosions and then blowing up the bridge, thank goodness at the end when they were able to do that. I just kept saying they're going to run out of ammo and they're going to run out of bombs, and they're still going to have people behind them. So what are they going to do? So that was interesting. And the part where they were in the what is that called, a sky pod or something, that thing that took them up to the castle.
Yes.
Is that what you would call that?
Yes, I would call it a bluff.
So when they were in that and they were doing that fight, and he had that little ice pick in his hand, and he had the two guys, and the one guy crawls up there with him, and they're fighting, and the other guy's shooting through the roof, and stuff, and he gets mad as a gun jams or runs out of bullets, and all that. That
moment.
What?
That's a very tense moment.
Yeah, that whole build up. Even though when they did the far away shot and they zoomed in, you could tell that there were two different actual
Actors.
cars or whatever.
Yeah.
That it was definitely not the actor from the farther away one because it was outside. It was still very good. It was still very exciting to me to find out who was going to die or who wasn't going to make it. And when I saw him strapping the dynamite on it, I was thinking, oh my God, one wrong, hit or a gun going off or something, it was going to cause that to blow up, and he's going to die too. There's no way you can get far enough away from anything on that little cable car to not get blown up. So that was a very, very intense scene. I really liked that part. The whole thing of them fighting on the up above, so high up. Because so many people definitely have phobias of being, of heights. So that made it even more intense because you could see how high up they were. So that was exciting to me. But my favorite scene was the actual one where they're inside at the table discussing about who are spies and who aren't, and when he confessed to who he was, and they're like, well, how do we know who you are? Well, who you say you are, because he was a double agent or whatever. You know how that worked out. So you didn't know if you believed him or not. And Clint Eastwood's character sitting there going, "What the?" You know, he didn't know which way was up, and it seemed like too by his facial expression, so it seemed believable. Because at that moment is when I was like, "What the?" Then when the SS agent showed up right then, soldier,
Yep.
and said, put your guns down, and they had dropped the guns. I was like, oh no, nobody's getting out of here alive, is what I was thinking. And then,
That's what I thought.
yeah, that's what I definitely thought. But then when he got shot, I was like, yes, and I started clapping. So I was like, I thought it was a good scene. But I love the fact when the part where darn, what's his name again? I'm terrible. Richard Burton
Yeah.
told the lieutenant, because he called him lieutenant a lot, that about when they were in the plane and they were about to leave. They were in the plane and they were telling the one guy that met them there with the plane, and he showed him the black book. The 3 black books that he had with all the names of the agents in it. And he said there's one name that's not in there, and it ended up being him. That one guy that was one of the bosses that put him out on this whole.
His entire gig.
The whole gig was he was one of the big guys involved in it. Well, when he looked at the lieutenant and he said, he mustn't cheat the hangman. So he was saying, but because he was going to shoot him, remember?
Yes.
And not to shoot him. He said he mustn't shoot the hangman, which meant he wanted him to serve justice, justice to be served. And if he just shot him, then he was out easy, right? So I thought
it was a coward's way out if he shot him.
Yeah, he was getting away with not having to suffer, basically. He's putting an instant death or whatever. So when he offered him a chance to take care of it himself, I thought that was pretty ingenious. I really liked that choice. And not one person said, hey, yeah, we got to take him back. They were all like, sure, let him jump without a parachute. And I thought that was really good.
See that scene in the courtroom with everybody drinking, and then you have Smith forcing Schaefer to drop his weapon, and he identifies himself as SS officer Stefan Führer Johann Smith of the SD, the SS intelligence branch. He shows Kramer. He shows Kramer the name of Germany's top agent in Britain.
Mm-hmm.
Kramer affirms it, and he calls a high-ranking officer on Kessering's staff.
Yeah.
And he's like, have him roll up his forearm. And now you see 2 scars. Ask him how he got those at birth. and he's like, that's definitely him. I was just floored at that point. I was not expecting that out of this movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, here and there, like I said, I felt uneasy that something was off, especially at the woman. Okay, when the woman showed up and jumped off the plane way after them, minutes later. I mean, there's no way she could have just walked up to him because she was miles away from him. Minutes in the sky is a long ways. So I was like, what is she got to do with this whole thing? Who knows who she really is, and why is she on the plane? Because she had to have left after they had that big meeting, because they were all put on the plane and shuffled out, So she was in somewhere in between on that airfield where they left from. So that was intriguing. And then the fact that the guy landed with the radio pack, and he said, I have to go find the radio guy's little booklet because I don't know how to use this equipment. And we knew as a watcher that he had that already because we saw him looking at it and had it in his hand. So we knew he was a liar then too. And that's when he met her, and they, he had a quickie in the barn. So there was a little bit of, sex and whatever. But even though he didn't show anything, you knew what was going on.
Yes.
Grown-ups or whatever. But you'd go up thinking he was a double agent, and then you go back down saying, no, he's not a traitor. And then you go
And
back,
then something else will happen.
he's a traitor, and then you go, no, he's not a traitor. So he kept going up and down and up and down. But I never did that with Clint Eastwood's character.
Now, Clint Eastwood was just a straight shooter throughout the
Yeah,
entire movie.
yeah, the whole
What he
movie,
told you is the truth.
and it was like he was a true American patriot. That's what I was thinking. So I thought that was kind of funny. But I thought he did great. And I was so amazed how much Clint Eastwood's son looks like his dad.
Yeah.
Because that was when he was young. I mean, I don't know how old Clint Eastwood was when he made this movie, but
He was born in like 35, and this is made in 68. So he's like 33 in this movie.
so he's basically, a little bit younger than his son is now or something.
Yep.
Or son older than that. I don't know how old his son is now either, but I saw his son in a couple things. That movie Overlord or something with Kurt Russell's son.
Yes.
He was in that, wasn't he? It was like one.
Let me check that because that's one of my favorite newer movies.
But I really liked this movie I saw Clint Eastwood's son in, and I was trying to remember. I thought it was a war movie or he was a soldier or something. But it's amazing to me how much he looks like his dad. It's like Kiefer Sutherland looks so much like his dad too, a miniature version of his dad. So they do look a lot alike. So definitely no denying that Clint Eastwood is his dad.
I don't think that he's in Overlord. Wyatt Russell and Giovanna Depo.
Okay. Was he in Suicide Squad then? He was in something big. He was in a big, and I can't remember what it was. I guess I could have looked it up. I don't know why I didn't. I'm sorry.
I'm looking it up right now.
Good, because he was in something, but I remember him, and I was like, "Good grief!" Him and his dad look so much alike. Amazing.
It's like 92 right now.
But he had a good long life, very fruitful life. He's a lucky man.
Scott East, he's got 8 kids. Jeez.
Yeah, that Lockwood lady. I can't remember what her first name is, but Sam Lockey or something like that was one of the girls that he had a hot on off and good relationship. I think that's what her name was.
He's in Tin Soldier. Okay, here's Scott Eastwood. The last he's in Suicide Squad as Lieutenant GQ Edwards.
I knew I saw him in something big, so that's where I remembered it. But I liked Suicide Squad. It was good. I enjoyed it. But yeah, he does look like his dad. It's amazing how much he looks like his dad to me.
He's also going to be in Fate of the Furious from 2017 and in Fast X, which they're filming now.
Is that the race car?
The race car movies.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think I watched the first one and maybe one other one, but I never really got into them. I know that sounds terrible, but
You're not missing a whole lot, okay?
for some reason, it was just not something that drew my attention. But everyone else seemed to really like him.
Out of the 8 kids, 3 of them are from married situations. The other 5 are just from, you know.
Yeah, but I bet he paid for all of them or helped pay.
Oh, God, yes.
So which Clint Eastwood's son just talking about? Mom.
Scott Eastwood.
Mm-hmm.
You have Kyle Eastwood. Let's pull him up. He's been in Gran Torino he was in Invictus, Gran Torino, and Letters from Iwo Jima as the music composer.
Ooh.
Yeah, his son Kyle does music.
I wonder if he looks like his dad too.
He kind of looks like Clint, but not really.
But the Scott Eastwood, golly, looks like his dad when his dad was young. A lot like. I mean, he could be in a remake of one of those spaghetti westerns. I think that's what you call it, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, see, he doesn't look as much like his dad as his brother does.
Not really.
Oh, that was a good movie, The Honky Tonk Man. Oh, he's the with his dad.
Yep. Kyle and Clint Eastwood. I never knew about that movie. I'll have to watch it soon.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I liked it.
Hey, Baron G Rock, how you doing, buddy? Here's the Clint Eastwood family.
Wow, that's a lot of people. And who's the woman in the white shirt? I wonder.
I have no idea.
It says, um, got Clint Eastwood, Allison Eastwood, Kyle Eastwood, Scott Eastwood, Stacy Lairdis,
Poitras.
Fortress.
And then Laurie Murray for the Mule movie.
Oh, okay. Oh, she was in that movie.
I have no idea.
So, I don't.
So that's your Eastwood clan right there. Bunch of pretty people.
Mm-hmm. But all of them look familiar. Like, well, all but one or two of them, but most of them look like I've seen them before in TV or movies or something. Well,
Interesting.
he looks really happy in that picture. Very
Yeah,
proud
he does. He's like 88 years old here.
Well, did he smoke? Is he a smoker?
I don't know if he was really a smoker. Um, Let me get down to the trivia. Burton was a hard drinker, a chain smoker, and out of shape by this point of the movie. Eastwood's actually climbing the wall, and he was health conscious up until this point in his career. So he wasn't a smoker.
Okay. Well, he was in his 30s though, so that's pretty good. Not be a chain smoker in your 30s.
Yeah. So after they get done interrogating and verifying that you have not Morris Schaefer, John Smith, the Brit officer, John Smith, the major. After they verify who he is, that entire scene turns into a shooting fest. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, but there was a lot in this movie. I mean, way more than I thought would be in it because I thought it was more uh, of intrigue.
And this movie was budgeted for 7.7 million.
Really?
Yep, 7.7. At the box office, it raked back 21 million.
Well, because of all those planes they ran and stuff, I was really surprised. It seemed like it would be a lot more money in there. You know, into the actual damages they did to stuff.
Well, more than likely, a lot of those planes were 20 to 30 years old, and beginning to the point where the insurance might not be worth paying on them another month. Go ahead, wreck it for this movie. We'll take it at the box office. We'll make it up there.
But they did make it the way they set up the scenes and stuff. I guess they really were able to make it look like they had a lot more planes, a lot more tanks, you know, a lot more Jeeps and other things that were damaged, which might have been the same Jeeps over and over again. They just fixed them back up and used them in another scene.
No, I don't think they were doing that. I think they literally had 50 Jeeps that they had access to, and they might have kept maybe 6 that were in mesh shape, but more than likely, those 6 were not drivable, not too far at least.
And that was a I have a real bad habit of is when I watch any military movies, seeing officers or soldiers go outside without their head covered, you know, without their cover on their head, um, while they were wearing their uniforms, and I'm real bad about that. So I'll say, see, they went outside and none of them even put their hats on. So it took it away from being realistic when stuff like that happens, which I guess that's because when you grow up a military brat, you just notice those things or something.
Hmm.
But I didn't see anything like that in this one. It seemed like everybody was wearing the uniforms properly, uh, the boots properly, things like that, and they were carrying their weapons that seemed believable to me that they would be, you know, carrying them properly, which means that you have good training, type of thing. So
Yeah. Whoever the weapons expert was on this movie, they did good.
even with
No,
all, I mean,
but
I've never seen so much dynamite in a movie.
I've never seen so much dynamite used in a movie before. This is literally the movie where if you want to be an OA, an ordnance specialist for the Navy, you need to watch this movie.
Yeah, they definitely blew up a lot of stuff. I mean, every one of the planes that they hit and they spun around and hit the other plane or whatever, they all blew up, every single one of them. And I think almost every single car that they shot at blew up, as either when it was spinning out on the road or when it was rolling down the mountain or the hills or whatever. There was an explosion going off. So it had lots of, if you like lots of gunfire and military action, this movie is definitely for you. You would really, really enjoy it. And the story is believable around why they're having these little skirmishes and stuff in the whole movie. So it was really good. I really enjoyed that part of it. And it was never a dull moment. I mean, you'd have it
No.
slow down a little bit of dialogue explaining different aspects of the espionage stuff that was going on, but you never have the whole picture. Even
No.
when you're sitting there, they were sitting at that table and he's telling them that he's a double agent and he was doing this, that, and the other. You didn't know what was up. You know what I mean? You still didn't understand the story was behind everything and how it was falling along. And to me, that was really, really good because it kept you enthralled going, what is going on? Who's doing the killing? Who's doing this and who's doing that? Trying to figure out whether the people that even sent them there, because I even started thinking when that they sent them there all to die, to use them as a scapegoat because they were going to drop a bomb or something, and they would say, it wasn't us, it was these people. That this rogue group of people went in and was caused this to happen when we had nothing to do with it. In a way, you know what I mean? The intrigue for that's what I had in my head a lot, waiting to find out what was really going to happen. So, a lot of people say, I would have just Googled it and not worried about watching this old movie. And I'm like, that takes away everything. The whole concept of what entertainment is, of being able to sit and be drawn into something or, bored, is that part of it is intriguing to find out for yourself whether or not you could be pulled into something this old of a movie. And I was definitely, I really, really enjoyed. I just enjoyed almost everything about it. There was a few things here and there that I thought got, but overall, I just thought it was a very well made film. I mean, when it came to the script alone, it was very lots of twists and turns, very roller coaster ride ish kind of a story, which I really, really enjoyed personally. Did you like it that way? Did you think it was that way too?
I This is one of these movies that you could watch it 3 or 4 times and you could be completely happy because each time you watch it, you're seeing something different. You're seeing something new with this movie
Mm-hmm.
because it has a bunch of little parts that you miss the first time you watch it. It has a bunch of twists and turns that you rewind. You're watching it, and all of a sudden you're like, I got to go back to this. Hold on, 2 minutes, rewind, and watch that again. And so this is not a movie that you just you can't passively watch it. You'll get lost. You'll get in the trees and you don't know where you're at. So I
I did.
like it for the fact that it's a very good complex plot. It is it is a unusual movie in the aspect where you aren't fed anything. You have to catch it because it happens right in front of you. So you have to be actively involved as a viewer.
Yeah, see, I was when one of the first scenes were happening, and I saw the woman come out of the little cubby hole in the front of the plane. I was like, "What the? What's a woman doing in it?" And so I rewound it back farther before the woman and before they jumped out of the plane to listen to the dialogue to see again to see if I missed something about why a woman would be on the plane. Okay, and it wasn't until um, he went into the what was his name again? I keep messing that up. I don't know why. Richard Burton's character went into that little barn area that was out there uh, and found out that she was like an agent sent undercover. Now we didn't know why. We didn't know if she was there to serve Richard Burton's needs or whether she was there to serve the team's needs. So that added more intrigue to it. But you could tell by the greeting that they received with each other that they worked together before or they knew each other from somewhere else or something that the other people didn't know about. So right off the bat, you're suspecting him of being a spy or something, or that he was trying to sabotage something. Uh, so that whole the way that they did that, I thought was very intriguing to me. It kept me hooked to watch a little bit more to make sure I was getting all the information I needed from it. And that's why I liked it so much. I think definitely couldn't get bored. At least I didn't.
Say again?
I said I definitely couldn't have gotten bored watching it.
No, you
I don't.
definitely don't get bored watching this movie at all. This is one of those films that you involve yourself with it, and once you accept the fact that you're watching it. You literally are involved with the script, and there's a lot of information that comes at you.
Yeah, the part where they capture his character. The two guys that had gotten away. And, they were able to beat him up and knock him out to where they had a chance to get into one of the gondolas to get away. And I didn't know how they were going to stop those guys. So that was very interesting. And the reason why that Richard Burton had to climb up on or get on top of it in the first place. So when they had that one fight way, way high up over the valley. So,
But like I just I can't say this movie's like a perfect 10, but I would say this movie's an easy 90 out of 100 or 4.5 stars.
yeah, I wouldn't give it less than 4 stars for sure because it almost had every single box ticked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Filling something out. Did this thing win any awards that you know of?
Uh,
That's one thing I didn't look at. I'm looking at my paper, see, but I don't see about it. I don't see
Where
any.
Eagles Dare.
But it was very well made. I thought the direction was really, really, really good. I would have done, I guess, I would have personally tried to do something different with the music quality and the type of music they played in areas. But it was in 1960, yeah, 1968. So, I'd have to watch some other movies from the 1968 or 67 to figure out why the music was the way it was, choice of music. And it might have just been that's the best they had at the time.
It
uh,
has one award and three nominations, and one of them, the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films in USA in 2011 said best DVD collection. So, as part of the Clint Eastwood 35 films, 35 years at Warner Brothers, and it was a nominee. In 1970, it was nominated for the Laurel Awards, and it got fourth place for both categories: action drama, action performance by Clint Eastwood, which it did really good. Clint Eastwood sells this movie.
oh yeah, I thought it
It
was
did win
good.
a 1985 Hubio, Huabiao Film Award for Outstanding Translated Foreign Film, which I'm thinking this movie probably isn't something that this award is not something that is an English award. But whenever they started putting it on home video and such, they did such a good job with the sound editing and the ADR that people bought it up. People bought it up and they snapped it up.
Plus, you got to remember, with a name like Richard Burton, even before Clint Eastwood was really getting into it yet, Richard Burton would bring people in, I'm sure, just with his name.
Yeah, and Richard Burton was a huge draw up until 68. Kind of around 70, he starts dropping off a bit because he's not nearly so young and spry anymore. But he was a nice, tall man that looked good on camera. He did good, and he got caught in all the right poses, all the right films, all the right places to be at. And so people would see that and they're like, oh man, Richard Burton was hanging out with this family this week, and he had Elizabeth Taylor on his side. So he's, yeah, like he was a Hollywood leading man.
Yeah, he was like, it was that was still the time where um, those awards shows and stuff were very, very popular on television. Because I remember my mother and my grandmother and them watching these award shows, like uh, just to see who was nominated, what they were wearing, and who was there, because it was entertainment in itself just to see the entertainers win awards. To me, today, I don't think it has any of the prestige or the class uh,
No,
that comes across the television set anymore for the movies that they nominate. It's like watching the. I probably shouldn't say it. I probably shouldn't say it.
go
Like
ahead.
one of those TV shows like the Kardashians or some other of these dumb shows where they're doing the you know live on TV trying to find girlfriends and boyfriends and
Yeah,
how
it could be very much a reality TV show where it's like The Bachelorette or some garbage like that.
that's what the awards shows to me today seem like. I mean, it seems it's all fake. They already know who's going to win. They put on this and they banter across each other and say this and that just to get people to go, and stuff like that. It's just stinks. I think it just reeks of fake. You know what I mean? Sense, but um, I just like a real reality show, which is like a documentary or something about they're out and they're talking about sharks and the shark bites one of them on the leg. That's reality because it's actually something that's actually happening in front of you and it's not scripted. You can't script a shark to come over and bite you on the leg.
No,
I miss those days. I miss days when you could watch something on TV and it was spontaneous and it was exciting. Even the TV shows like I can't even remember some of them. Like Married with Children or whatever. It was entertaining. I mean, I don't know. But this movie still had that quality, even though it had its faults and little things with the sound and a couple of little glitches, like when you see them out there walking and you can see their breath, and then all of a sudden they got a close-up shot and you don't see any breath anymore. It's because you can tell it's indoors. Little things like that don't take away from the quality that comes across in the acting and the actually good story that's you're watching unfold in front of you. So I just wish that we had more of that, you know.
So I based Jeremy made me laugh. He's like, "Don't hurt my dream. I love the Kardashians."
Well,
Well,
I see why a lot of people like them, and there was some interesting stuff on it. But it's, I mean, watching them get up in the morning on their show, and their hair's a mess, and their breath stinks, and they look like shit because they got their fake eyelashes are falling off, and that kind of stuff. That's reality. But
yes.
like a 10, 24/7 all day long, they never sweat. This this doesn't look real. It's just not a reality. How can it be called a reality series?
Now they haven't been in a reality show for how many years? They've been on that show of theirs for years, but it's not been reality. Their lifestyle is not reality. You know, Chloe begging people to just throw money at her Kickstarter so she can be the youngest billionaire ever. That's not reality. And I get kind of furious whenever I see garbage like that.
I remember when the very first episode of Survivor came on TV. I was so excited because the first thing that popped in my head was like my dad. You know, my dad's a survivor, that kind of show, when they
Yeah.
were stuff. And I was like, it'd be so cool to see people build things using their hands and a knife, just things like that. And there is a couple of nature shows where they have a guy that he goes out with a camera by himself and he finds food and he builds a shelter and does all these different things by himself. I loved it. I cannot remember the name of it right this minute, but to me that was a really good show because I remember going with my dad uh, camping, for the weekend, and we had to have our backpack. My one sister and I were the only two that ever went with him because the other sister said no, they didn't want to go. But we would go and we'd have to carry our own backpack with our own bedroll and all our supplies on our backs ourselves. God, I think I was like 6, 7 years old. And I remember I was really tired and I told my dad my shoe had gotten wet. I stepped in some really soggy moss and my shoe was soaking. And that's when he's telling me I should have worn my boots and not wear my tennis shoes, and that kind of stuff. So he told me to take my shoe off and clean it out and everything and put a dry sock on. So I was doing that and I sat down on this little stump and my butt went right through the stump because it was rotted. So now I had a wet ass and swamp foot. So I had all of it. It was horrible. That was a horrible my first day on that trip. But that's what happens when you go camping in the woods with a dad that's a jungle survival instructor. So it makes you tough. But
What they're showing you on TV is not jungle survival. It's on a set. They do quick cuts and edits of all the animals nearby, but they're in a Hollywood backlot 90% of the time. They're in no real danger. Which I would love to see a Survivor season get cut short by a stampede of angry elephants that get irritated of all the Bluetooth noise that's out there. I would love to see that.
somebody getting bit by a poisonous spider or a snake, something that would happen in reality in nature like that when they go to some of these exotic places that they supposedly went to, or a shark attack or something. I'm not saying I want to see gruesomeness, but someone can get stung by a stingray or something. I mean, just
We already had that with Steve Urban. No stingrays.
you know. But what I mean is, you had how many? They're getting ready to do another Survivor Series show. That's 20. I mean, how many seasons did they do? I mean, they did a lot. And
There's been so much.
yeah, so it's like, and I thought it was really interesting with the first couple seasons when I watched it because it seemed believable to a certain degree, especially the fact that I liked the fact that they didn't make all the show all physical stuff because there were older people on there. But then it got to be, it was nothing but a dating game type thing. It was nothing but young people on the show. At least the women were all young and hot. And then there was a couple of older guys, and they were all jealous of each other because they all wanted the bimbo that had the big hooters, that kind of stuff. So when it started getting like that, I just quit watching it because it just wasn't the same thing. It's not Survivor. It should be called Dating on an Island or some stupid name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just don't like it when they take away from something that could be really good and ruin it, which is what they seem to do nowadays. But
Well, Survivor came out at the same time that the Sims video game came out on PC. And that video game sold more laptops than I care to acknowledge. But we had a guy, a friend of ours, that he was in our gaming group in Peoria, and he worked at the Best Buy there. And all these women would come in, and they're like, "I just need a computer that can run The Sims. I just give me The Sims. Don't give me the biggest, baddest gaming computer. Just give me something that runs The Sims because I've got to play it. It looks so fun." And then with The Sims coming out, like all the mods came out for it, so you could get bit by your guinea pig and die from rabies, which
mhm.
was great, because it actually had cost in it. It had weight.
Risk had
So
in it.
yeah, you have risk, real risk. And so we got a chance to see this guy do his work one day. I just bored. I was bored. Going to go to Best Buy, see Tom. What's Tom doing? Tom's selling computers left and freaking right. And 90% of the female clientele are telling him, I want to play The Sims. This is in February of 2000.
Mhm.
And it is already locked down game of the year. So I'm like, holy shit. No, this wasn't Peoria. This was a Forsyth or Springfield. My bad. But Tom was slinging these computers out there. Just like there are days where a salesman's hot, and there are days where a salesman will make his monthly income in a 8-hour shift, and
Yep.
that was Tom's 8-hour shift. He did so well that day, and we were proud of him. We went out afterwards to Darcy's Pint, which is a really good little place in Springfield. But we went out there, and he bought money. He brought money from spiffs and such, and that was at the time where like Best Buy was. They were trying to get away from the creepy sales guy thing, but they were still handing money out to their guys that were really good because the store manager's like, no, I want my salespeople that are good to sell and make money. I want them to make money now. We can put it there. So we went out afterwards, and he probably bought $300-400 worth of drinks and food for us at a place that was like a notorious $1 sign item or $1 sign location on your Google Maps. It was so cheap. You could get a pony shoe or a horseshoe for less than $10 there.
Yeah.
Okay, just to put that out there. And it wasn't really a high class place because it was a pony shoe or a horseshoe and PBR for $12. So we were enjoying the shit out of this, and it's just The Sims came out at the same time as Survivor's first season. I was all jazzed up about Survivor at first. I'm like, oh cool, we're gonna actually have like murders on television because
Yeah.
there's gonna be some guy that loses his shit and just goes ape shit monkey style on some other dude, or maybe some chick fight will happen.
Yeah.
That never happened.
Yeah. See, that's what I was thinking because you can't have people living out there hungry, getting eat up by bugs, sun,
No.
rashes, whatever else is going on, and nobody fight. I mean, because there's going to be fights when you do that stuff. You're going to have a lazy person that doesn't want to collect food, doesn't want to find wood, doesn't want to be involved in anything, and everybody wants to kill that person. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of
And
I was expecting, and it ended up not being. It just seemed so.
disingenuous.
It was artificial to me. Now, the first season, I loved it. I thought it was so exciting. It seemed to making them stand on a little platform with their hands up in the air, holding something. Things like that was very hard. Uh, the challenging little things they had to do were really good. And then they had the ones that got sent to the island to be by themselves,
Hmm.
voted to go to the island from the other players. So it kind of added a little way of people saying, well, those people are a-holes. So anything I can do that's going to hurt these people with misinformation or fibs or whatever it takes to get even with these people that I blame for my problems, that made it intriguing too. So I really liked it the first season. I thought it was really good. And then the second season wasn't as bad, wasn't as uh, it was, okay, an okay show. But it seemed like after the second season, after that, it started getting to be more and more commercial, to where it just wasn't as believable. That it just seemed like if somebody had an itchy eye or a bug bite, someone was putting medicine on it. If they got a little tiny cut, someone was put a band-aid on it. It was like but they wouldn't show you that stuff. See, and that's one of the things I thought, if they did have that stuff, they should show the small interactions they got with somebody fixing a boo boo or scratch or whatever else. So at least you knew why nobody was dying from, ptomaine or some, bad cooked food, or, eating grubs or whatever it was that was going on. It just seemed they didn't drink enough water. None of them seemed like they really did much to survive when it came to finding water and food and things that they needed. So I don't know. I just thought it just kind of bummed me out. But getting back to the movie, the part where you found out about the whole plot and how they were trying, the whole thing was set up to catch these four four spies, that they felt these people were spies inside their area. So they set up this whole thing.
The whole very complex trap.
Yeah, it was like a trap to catch all of these people all at one time, because uh, all of them were sharing information with different aspects of the Germans' levels, depending on where this person was in the food chain, as a double agent or whatever. But that part of it was the espionage stuff, was very intriguing. And I liked that whole way that they figured all that out. It was like a puzzle almost, trying to put the pieces together. And then you go to yourself, you're saying, that's why they killed that poor radio guy, and the poor guy that they found under the Jeep. Both of them were killed, and they were innocents. They were pretty much them, and the Clint Eastwood character pretty much were the only ones that didn't know what was going on until the very end, because you knew that the blonde girl knew something,
And
because
she had some information.
yeah, she had a lot
Well,
more information than Clint Eastwood's character did. Yeah, and the other brunette, or the redhead, the one that you thought was so cute. Um,
I'm sorry. I'm sold on Ingrid Pitt. I'm going to watch the Countess Vampire or the Countess Dracula pretty much today or tomorrow. It's a thing. You guys go ahead, but I'm answering the call of my loins, and it looks like a great movie. It looks like a fantastic film. It's a Hammer film. Those are notably schlocky. I love schlock. I love bad movies so much, people.
I loved all those old scary movies. I just really liked it. I loved the old comics that were, Dracula, all the old. Gosh, I can't even tell you how many there were. I just remember when I'd see a character on the front of a comic book and they look scary, monsters, Swamp Thing, any of them, I wanted to read it. I was
Yeah.
darker, the more I was drawn into it. For why, I have no idea. I mean, I just don't, because I wasn't a goth or anything. I never dressed gothy or did any of that stuff. I just was really interested in any stories that had that kind of intrigue inside, to see what was in there, because the cover was so intriguing and I wanted to read it.
Yeah,
And
I hesitate to think, and every man should hesitate to think what Janet would have looked like in the late '80s, early '90s as a goth girl. Don't go there.
I'm sure
Don't
I was
go there.
as heck, I tell you. If I was into that stuff, but I wasn't. I never was into that. I was boring as heck. But I'm not boring anymore because I'm a late bloomer apparently. But that whole part of it, when that story part was coming out, even at the very end when they're on the plane with the person that helped them set up this whole operation, and he's finding out they found him out. That was really good. So basically, all of almost to the last 5 minutes, you get the end of the rest of the story. You know what I mean? For the story, so it was really really good all the way up to the very end of the movie.
You
On
have to
other,
watch the very end.
yeah, and I thought it was great. Definitely thought this movie was for a movie I'd never heard of. Never heard of it. I never saw anything about it. I didn't even see the trailer for it this time. When as I've had a lot of things going on, I've been busy, and I didn't get to watch it till yesterday. And then this morning, I watched. I went through some parts where I remembered I saw this, that, or the other. Like when I rewound, watched the whole part where the people were jumping off the plane, and I was wondering who, by listening to the dialogue over and over again on the plane, and after they got off the plane, when they jumped into into the mountains and the woods, to see which one I thought might have brought that woman along, trying to figure this out. So yeah, I found myself watching some other scenes over and over and writing things down, but it was very intriguing. I thought that I don't know. I thought that they did a really good job on the script for the gentleman that wrote the script. I don't know who it was. I don't think I have it on my notes. Yeah, Alistair McLean.
Alistair McLean.
Yeah, so that's who wrote it. I never heard of them before, but what does that say?
I love the old comics too, Janet. Tomb of Dracula was epic. Frankenstein was tragic and creepy, and eerie magazines were awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, I miss the days of Starlog magazine
some of those.
and Fangoria. I haven't seen either of those two magazines. Starlog is long dead, but I think Fangoria is still a thing.
But see, my dad, he liked to collect things. I guess you could call him a hoarder or whatever. I mean, as I think I told you one time that I've gone over there many times and helped declutter a little bit, trying to box things up and pack it up because he never wants to throw anything away. And he had stacks and stacks and stacks of Playboys and Hustlers still in the packages. So I know that he's got a collection worth a lot of money because you can sell that stuff on eBay and stuff like that. But I found lots of old. He called them graphic novels, I guess, or whatever. But I found lots of old comic books and thicker than comics. I don't know what you call them. They're a little thicker. They're more like
Like a graphic novel almost.
yeah, I guess that's what you'd call it. But tons of little stories like that with short stories in them. Very interesting, little tons of little things Dad had because he just couldn't bear to throw anything away. So I went through a lot and just took them out and read them. And put them in my room and stacked them by my bed, and I would pull one out and I'd try to read as much as I could because they were really interesting. And some of them were like true crime stories, a real life horror. This had tons of weird names. I guess it was like all the people on YouTube, and they make those little what do you call it? The picture that you just stare at when you're waiting to go live or whatever.
Oh, the loading video or the placeholder videos.
Yeah, but it's like a picture to draw you in. You see, I don't know what it's called. They call it something,
Like a title card almost.
yeah, Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers is always saying, make sure you put the red laser eyes and make sure you have this, that, and the other in this, whatever it is. I can't remember this one picture that's on there. It's not a meme, but it's a thing to draw people to click on your channel. And there's a name for the picture that you use, a thumbnail or something, to make sure you have something intriguing to make people want to click on your thumbnail. And that's basically what I got, what I get from some of those, old books and stuff. It was almost like a trailer, but it was a just a picture trailer to draw you in to say, "Wow, that's intriguing. Look what's
Yeah,
in this."
almost a teaser.
Yeah, a teaser cover. There you go. That's a perfect name for it. But even the cover on this that you posted with this movie for tonight,
Mhm.
there's going on that picture.
Yeah,
Even
I'm when I
still,
saw that, I'm like, "That's perfect." I hope that StreamYards will let me use it because sometimes I'll put up a photo or a piece of artwork on there and it's rejected. It's like, no, it's not a PNG. So I go back into it and I re-edit it, save it as PNG, and it's still not right. Oh, the dimensions are wrong. Oh, blah. And I'm thinking, what the fuck do I got to do to get something decent? This is probably the best looking. Uh, I don't do the thumbnails. I probably should learn the art of thumbnails, but I don't. I
put
come
it
to
in.
my content. If my content sucks, tell me in the comments. Say, get good, scrub, and I'll take it. I'll get good. I'll do my best. But I don't value things like editing. I don't value trying to flower something up or trying to make it pretty. I do my best with my figures, but like I don't try to like value with special effects. Like, oh, this one here, look at that. I've got a filter on these 13 ratkin. Yeah, they're all finished. And when you turn off the camera and special effects are just like little gray rats and they're dull as shit. They haven't even touched a brush yet. No, no, no,
Yeah,
no. I don't want that. I want everything I do to be authentic. And it might sound garbage, and there's little stuff going on in the background over here tonight, but like I can tell you that whenever I do something on camera, I'm pretty much trying to lay out everything I can and be as authentic as possible. I don't want to be unauthentic. And when I found that photo, that poster for that movie, I'm like, this is the best that it gets. I don't know if anybody had ever done that or seen that before. I never saw it when people had reviewed this movie, and I'm like, why
yeah,
were they using that picture to review this movie with? Because that picture encompasses all the various things and acts between starting moment and the ending moment of this film. And the only thing you're not going to see on that is at the very end, what's his face fly out the plane into the snow. Which the only part I didn't like about that was the plane door opens and I was hoping to see like a shadow come across Clint Eastwood. I wanted to see him like have the guy move in front of him because the snow is a light source, and he
yeah.
didn't do that.
Mm-mm.
He just should have. They should have done that in a closed set with a light source outside. That way, Clint Eastwood's face would have that shadow cross him, and you could tell he jumped out the plane. But that's like little small things in this movie I'm not going to get too upset about. This is 1968. This is not the height of digital modern era where we can just add in something. Oh, no, 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 well, there's a bridge there, we'll put a big dinosaur there instead. Make it Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
Just it it's a very, god damn, this movie tries hard. This movie goes into the paint really hard. It does everything it can to show you that everything going on is real. The car chase, or not the car chase, but the car scene where they're taking everybody in, and Clint Eastwood's sitting in the middle on the bitch seat, and he's like, "I'm just trying to get my arm loose, circulation." And then he shoves the dude out of the car. You hear gunshots inside. The car speeds up into a snowdrift and hits something. You hear the Wilhelm scream, which is my favorite sound in any movie, is the Wilhelm scream. I love the Wilhelm scream. He
yeah,
flies out and smacks that hill, and I'm just like, oh, this is great. This is how a movie should be. And I watched that scene two more times because I thought for 1968, that's probably the best car chase or car crash I've seen yet.
yeah. And the part where I was talking about earlier, where he had set the bombs on all those
The light
telephones
bulb?
so they could take out the telephones, so they couldn't
Yes.
come land after from the castle or whatever. Well, when they were blowing all those up, the very last one that they went by on the right hand side was that big tree. And as soon as they hit it and it was on that slope, the hill, it fell across the road and it blocked the Jeep and the other vehicles that were trying to come behind them. So that was really cool. And then when the Germans actually get some explosives and they blow the tree up, because when they blew the tree up, it left like a big hole in the road.
Yeah.
But after they did that, they just moved that one big log out of the way and they just drove around the down tree. It was able to get right past it because it was nothing, besides the the cab or whatever that was holding them there. So if they were to bring in a new person, I always say, maybe she'll have to, somebody have to take care of it or whatever. But uh, it just, I don't know. It just, it's nice to see a real good, well-made movie that actually has a good story and good people behind it. The director working with the rest of the characters in the movie with along with the people that did the props and things like that to make it as believable as possible. So them taking off their white snowsuits and they had their officers' uniforms on, things like that. Just little details like that for like being dropped in to a place where you got to be ready to go. As soon as you hit the ground, it might be needed that you look the authentic part so that you're not dragged off and hung in the woods. So I just thought it was good. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very, very good movie. And golly, it was long.
Yeah,
Um,
2 hours and 38 minutes, I think.
yeah, it took a long time to watch it, but because I kept pausing it to uh, try to rewind it and then I'll watch something again to try to figure out if I missed something that didn't make sense. And then I'd have to wait, 5 minutes or whatever, and then it started falling into place what was going on before that part happened. So I don't know. But overall, for a 2 hour movie, over 2 hour movie,
It
um,
holds you.
yeah, it did. It really did. I didn't think it seemed as long as 2.5 hours. In the movie theater, this was played at a real movie theater. Would they have had an intermission? Do you think?
Say again?
If you'd went to a movie theater when they were showing this back in 1968, do you think that they had an intermission?
Yes, this did have an intermission.
Okay,
This
because
did. That's something we haven't had in a movie for decades. When was the last time we had an intermission in a film?
do they even do that anymore?
I haven't seen one in a long time, and the closest thing I can think of it was when uh, a friend of mine went to go see the Lord of the Rings movies at the theater, the extended editions, and they had 20 minutes between the end credits and start of the next one. That's the closest that I've heard of an intermission.
Did the Passion of the Christ, didn't it have an intermission?
I did not witness that, and I went and saw that movie twice.
So I guess it didn't. So I was just trying to think. I was trying to think back of the big hit movies that we had that I remember having, people waiting in line and all that stuff to see it.
I don't remember that one having an intermission, and I thought,
I,
of
it,
all things, that movie's score was so powerful. That
oh,
movie would have been better with an intermission.
I don't know. I thought it was I mean, I felt very humbled when after seeing that movie. Um,
It's one of my favorites.
and this movie was rated PG for parental guidance, and it sure had a lot of killing in it.
Had a ton of killing in it.
And blow stuff. Now, but the thing is, it wasn't lots of blood and anything. You know what I mean?
Not really, but the action in there and the hidden action that your brain fills in for you,
Hmm.
that was really good, I thought.
Yeah, it's because it left a little bit to your imagination, like the whole love scene at the very beginning when he goes in and the scene cuts away when they're having a really big, passionate kissing session or whatever going on. So
Yes.
you knew, I mean, common sense told you what was about to happen. So, you just didn't get to witness it. But later on, when he did leave, you knew what they've been doing. So, you know what I mean? You put two and two together, it does make
Yeah.
four. So, that part kind of stuff was pretty good. But I really did overall, I would say, hmm, I think I would give this a like you said earlier, for 4.5 stars. I would give it at least a 4. I would not go lower than a 4.
Yeah, this movie has so many iconic parts in it that in modern cinema, this if you make a World War II movie, this would be the blueprint of what you want to follow because of all the iconic moments that are in it. For video game aficionados, this movie has a lot of contributions in modern and one or two generations older video games. You have a lot of this repeated in Call of Duty games. You have a lot of this shown off in the earlier Return to Wolfenstein material. You have all these elements that they breathe these. They want to make you when you play these stupid video games, they want to immerse you in this and make it feel like you're there going through the movie where eagles dare, because most people that are film buffs and video game aficionados, they see the natural marrying of the two forms of media, and this is one of the movies that always comes up. Like, I need to make a movie like a video game that makes you feel like you're in where eagles dare. I need to have that happen. I need to have the player feel like he's in the cold, hiding from the Joymans, and then trying to get a good shot off, and then maybe advance up the side of the mountain afterwards. And this is just an iconic film, and I've missed it for 47 years. And I kick myself. I'm going to talk to my dad tomorrow about it because I know he's seen it a couple dozen times. He has to, right? Right? Oh, God, I hope. Um, I love this movie, and I think this is a film that if you've got a young kid, show your child this movie, especially you, Shadow and Son, and take some friends with you if they are telling you they've not seen it in a long time, or they've never seen it. This is a great movie to go in an adventure with Clint Eastwood and Robert or Richard Burton. Don't go too deep on Richard Burton. If you're like me, the more you read about him, the less you like him. I'm just going to leave that out there. The guy was excessively critical of Winston Churchill later in life, and he just did not like freedom. He was not that guy. So uh, do check us out on our further movie reviews. Janet, I have to ask you, what do you want to watch? It's your chance. It's your chance to choose.
I would really, really, really think I'm ready for something that's action packed, sci fi, funny, and romance. And I would like to watch Galaxy Quest.
1999 was a hell of a year. Sure, I'm there. I'm there.
Be a really fun movie. It's a lightheartedness, and I think and I really want to watch it again. So I think that'd
Fair
be.
enough.
How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay, great. I'm looking forward to it.
Uh, I want to end before the 2 hour mark.
Oh,
So, if I could, I want you to describe your channel and where we can find Miss Janet from Another Planet.
okay. I'm on YouTube, and I do a little shorts videos, and I do like little inspirational things. I wear glasses and a scarf or whatever because I'm like a therapist. So like I try to give you information like how to make your day better, or exercise tip, or a romance tip, pickup line, little things like that to put a smile on your face or maybe have a giggle or two. And then I also have a TikTok, and I do some duets on there, a few other little things like that. And then I have an Instagram, and I pretty much put everything I put on my YouTube channel on there, except on my YouTube channel, I have a one area it's for 18 and older because I use a couple of dirty words here and there because I tell dirty jokes, things like that. So, and I don't want to put them out there for younger children because I don't approve of that. I wouldn't do it in my everyday life, so I don't want to do it to other people.
Exactly. If you have adult things going on, go ahead, be doing your adult things. But if there's kids around, either corral the kids and do your thing elsewhere, or move your adult activities where the kids can't witness them. That seems to be a pretty
Yeah,
simple process, a small,
there's
simple request.
I'm always shocked how much stuff I see um, on the different apps. So much grown up stuff, and I've had a couple people leave comments on my normal little videos that I thought was interesting, and then I'd click on it and go to their channel. And it ends up being a 12-year-old kid, and I'm like, oh, thank God I put my stuff on the grown up area because I'm embarrassed. I'd be so
Yeah,
embarrassed to even tell a dirty joke and have a 12-year-old kid telling it to his friends. So I know I can't control if someone tells fibs and fixes it where they can see it, but I do try. I make an effort to do that.
sure. Yeah, sure, that's completely understandable. And I mean, I've been that young kid before. I wanted to see an R-rated movie. Shit,
Mm-hmm.
I drove myself to Terminator 2 in 91 and I was 16. They wouldn't let me in. I'm like, come on, I've got the money. I drove myself here. Let me see this film. No, you can't. Why not? Because it's rated R. And I went round and round, and finally I just gave up after about 8 minutes of arguing. And there's like every employee that the theater has telling me no. Like, fine, whatever. For those of you that have been in chat and been lurking, I really appreciate you guys being here. We're going to be streaming this over on Rumble here in a few minutes, and it'll be picked up probably within the next 24 hours there and over on BitChute, hopefully. But we have really enjoyed doing tonight's show for you, and I've got two figures that are almost completed, which makes me very happy. I would like to say with Janet, if you guys like what you see, if you enjoy what you hear coming out of her, she has an entire YouTube channel that I put in the comments there. Go ahead and check her out. She is definitely a person to watch and follow. She's going to get huge as time goes on in size of subscribers. Haha. And you will watch her amazingly, I would say, blossom. I'm pretty certain that her channel is going to explode on numerous ways. One, on subscribers. Two, on the content that she just keeps putting out, which is good every day. Tim
I,
Christ, Shadow and Son, Jeremy or Felix, Soy Jeremy or Felix, and for everybody else that showed up here, I will be doing table breakers on Tuesday or on Thursday night. Thursday night we have a table breakers show. We will be doing a special conversation with Shadow and Son. Possibly Son will be there. We would like it, and the other five from Peoria will be there as well. We also will see you this coming Saturday during our game stream. And I think that's everything I have on the docket that I want to discuss. Come back next Monday. We're going to discuss the greatest movie of 1999, Galaxy Quest.
yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Excellent. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Go ahead, Janet, and if you'll lead us out.
Yeah, I was just gonna say thank you everyone for coming and sharing a little bit of time with us and enjoying a movie, a good, great movie, inspirational movie with us, and hope to see you next week. Thank you for coming.